Today from my collection and for your consideration, I have an original 1860s bodice. This bodice was very well loved and used and mended and also expanded in several areas, so let's talk about that. It is made of a black silk, which if you don't study the 19th century will immediately make you think that this lady who wore this was rich, because we have it in our minds that only rich people could afford silk. Even with working class women back in the day, it was not uncommon to see them as having silk in their wardrobe. And of all the colors of silk, black silk was seen as the most practical choice. To quote an 1869 source, "If a lady can have but one silk dress in a series of years, she will find a black silk to be of more use to her than any other color. Black is becoming to every complexion, and a black silk may be worn at a wedding, a party, a funeral, or to church. It is nowhere out of taste except in the kitchen." End quote. And that right there is why I have more black silk dresses and bodices dating to this time period than any other color combined. So back to this dress. It is entirely hand sewn, and the standing collar tells us this is at least 1864 or so, and the style is somewhere in that 1864 to 1867 range. The silk is thin but opaque and gives a nice sheen to it. The sleeves are coat sleeves, which quickly became popular when they were introduced in the early 1860s. Those sleeves have been piped at the wrist and also faced with self fabric for a few inches before showing off their brown cotton lining. Now let's talk about the remakes. First, there is extensive mending under the arm on the breast side. This is a very common area of wearing, and I see it frequently on originals, particularly with larger busted dresses. The easy period way to fix this is what we see here. Many rows of tiny stitches back and forth and then across, and then sometimes even diagonal to strengthen that worn edge. It's almost like weaving the fabric back together again. Now when you go to the underarm, there's a good 1.5 to 2 inch stitch line from where this lady grew about 4 to 5 inches in the waist, or had this dress sold secondhand to someone who was larger than the original wearer, and the side seam was taken out. This pupil is why many originals have 1 to 2 inch side seams on the inside. It is to take out and make the dress bigger. My absolute favorite part of this thing is that she just cut right through the waist piping and did not bother to do it the right way and add more piping. She took a scrap bit of black silk, folded it up to where a little bit was poking out on the right side to look like piping, and just whipped it on the inside. The inside may look like trash, but it's hardly noticeable from the outside. It's one of my favorite lazy Victorian dressmaking hacks. Now on to the front. The buttons are these beautiful shiny jet black buttons that are just lovely. Notice how there's no turn under on the right. Another inch has been let out for growth purposes and the buttons reset. And of course the buttonholes are hand done as usual. On the inside we see brown cotton twill as the lining and 2 darts that are so typical of mid-19th century dresses. On the back we see what looks like a 3-piece back, but from the inside we can just see it's a small row of stitching, so that's really a tiny little tuck taken on the outside fabric to make it look like a 3-piece back. And this is one of my favorite pieces of adult 1860s clothing that I own. I know it's just a humble black silk bodice, but the remaking tells a wonderful story of this bodice's life. Again, I am in the process of moving, but as soon as I get my originals back, I will measure and weigh this garment and put those stats in the description for you. Thanks for watching.